animal form and function. And yeah, so we're done with the plants. Go back to that. Now it's animal form and function. And look at the subsection principles. So further information, you go to zoology, anatomy, and physiology. All right, so let's dive right in. So the cells in each animal body are bathed in interstitial fluid, which makes up the cell's environment. This fluid and all its characteristics, e.g. temperature, ionic composition, can be described as the animal's internal environment, which is in contrast to the external environment that encompasses the animal's outside world. And now I thought might as well just do this now. So this is the term E.G. I've been showing it several times in this video. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. And I'm just going to put this note right here. So e.g. fructose. This just means for example. I'm just going to exit this and write, and then copy and paste this from also from Wikipedia here. Paste like that. I'm going to remove this. So e.g. Is an abbreviation for exempli gratia. See the pronunciation here?
Exempli gratia.
Or exempli gratia is a Latin phrase meaning for example. So that e.g. over there. I'm just going to put it like this. And here I might as well just add aka, that's also known as, and let's say this here.
Est.
Or id est, let's go start from here.
Id est.
Or id est, or id est, or id I.e. Also use this, it's also used throughout this document as Latin for that is, or in other words. Yeah, it's very fascinating stuff here. So let's go back over to where we started off. So we go the EG, and so yeah, there's a whole bunch of these. Let's scroll all the way over to the one that we were at, and that should be the fluid right here. So yeah, so this fluid and all of its characteristics, e.g. temperature, ionic composition, can be described as the animal's internal environment. Yeah, which is in contrast to the external environment that encompasses the animal's outside world. Yeah, so that's the internal environment. So again, and it's all of its characteristics, the fluid, e.g. temperature, or e.g. or for example, temperature, ionic composition, etc. So MES note, interstitial fluid is the body fluid between blood vessels and cells, containing nutrients from capillaries, which are again the small blood vessels connecting arteries and veins. And it's connecting or containing nutrients from this, and it's containing it by diffusion and holding waste products discharged out of cells due to metabolism. And recall again, simplified illustration of a capillary network. You have the vein going to the heart, and this is from the heart to the body, and there's the small blood vessels, there's the capillary over there. And the interstitial fluid, all the fluid in between, it contains nutrients from capillaries, by diffusion or via diffusion, holding waste products discharged by the cells due to metabolism. Very interesting. And again, here's that figure. We went over it earlier, but let's go over it now because we're dealing with that now. So distribution of the total body water in mammals between the intracellular compartment within cells and the extracellular compartment outside of cells, which is in turn subdivided into interstitial fluid and smaller components such as the blood, plasma, the cerebrospinal fluid, which surrounds the brain and spinal cord, and lymph, which makes up a small percentage of the interstitial fluid. So here's a setup. So intracellular fluid, that's within, that's 67%. So outside of the cells, you have extracellular fluid. Now here's interstitial fluid, which is outside of the cells and the blood vessels over there. Yes, that's right over here. So it's between the blood vessels and cells, and that's 26%. Then you have the intravascular fluid, that's inside the vascular setup or inside the blood vessels, and there's the cerebrospinal fluid, less than 1%, and that is that surrounds the brain and spinal cord. And in this interstitial fluid, you also have a small percentage contains the lymph there. Makes up a small percentage of the interstitial fluid. So in lean, healthy adult men, the total body water is 60% or 60 to 67% of the total body weight. It is usually slightly lower in women, 52 to 55% body water. and the exact percentage of fluid relative to body weight is inversely proportional to the percentage of body fat. So the more body fat percentage you have, the less water you have. The less body fat, the more water. Yeah, so the more body fat, less water. So women have more body fat, and hence slightly lower total body weight of water. Yeah, so more fat woman, less body water, and then in men, more water, less fat. Very interesting. All right, so let's continue further. So animals can be classified as either regulators or conformers. Animals such as mammals and birds are regulators as they are able to maintain a constant internal environment such as body temperature despite their environments changing. These animals are also described as homeotherms. See the pronunciation here.
Homeotherms.
Yeah, homeotherms as they exhibit thermoregulation by keeping their internal body temperature constant. In contrast, animals such as fishes and frogs are conformers as they adapt their internal environment, e.g. body temperature, to match their external environments. These animals are also described as poikilotherms. See this pronunciation?
Poikilotherms.
Yeah, poikilotherms, which is basically highly variable internal temperature, or ectotherms, in which internal heat generation is very low. Yeah, so as they allow their body temperatures to match their external environments. In terms of energy, regulation is more costly than conformity, as an animal expends more energy to maintain a constant internal environment, such as increasing its basal metabolic rate. See the pronunciation of this?
Basal.
Yes, a basal metabolic rate, which is the rate of energy consumption. Similarly, homeothermy is more costly than poikilothermy. See this?
Poikilotherm.
Yes, a poikilothermy. Yeah, so similarly, homeothermy is trying to maintain the same temperature, whereas this poikilotherms, this can be highly variable internal temperature, so it doesn't require as much energy. But if you're always changing, if you're always trying to maintain the exact same temperature, that's going to be more costly because the environment's going to be changing a lot. So MES note, thermoregulation is the ability of an organism to keep its body temperature within certain boundaries, even when the surrounding temperature is very different. Yeah, so a thermoconforming organism, by contrast, simply adopts the surrounding temperature as its own body temperature, thus avoiding the need for internal thermoregulation. And homeothermy or homothermy or homeothermy, or homeo, see this pronunciation?
Homeotherm.
Oh, let's try that again. I don't know why the sound switched up to the guy one. See this?
Or homeothermy.
Homeothermy, all right. So homothermy, or homeothermy is thermoregulation that maintains a stable internal body temperature regardless of external influence. This internal body temperature is often, though not necessarily, higher than the immediate environment. This is from Greek homeos, meaning similar, and thermi, meaning heat. Homeothermy is one of the three types of thermoregulation in warm-blooded animals species. Homeothermy's opposite is poikilothermy. See that again?
Poikilotherm.
Poikilothermy. A poikilotherm is an organism that does not maintain a fixed internal temperature, but rather fluctuates based on their environment and physical behavior. Homeotherms are not necessarily endothermic, so that's have an internal heat source, or not necessarily. Put that here. Some homeotherms may maintain constant body temperatures through behavioral mechanisms alone. So in other words, they just move wherever it's the same temperature. So, i.e., behavioral thermoregulation. Many reptiles use this strategy. For example, desert lizards are remarkable in that they maintain near constant activity temperatures that are often within a degree or two of their lethal critical temperatures. And to gain more insight on this, what this means, to maintain near constant activity or activity temperatures, essentially it means they're just moving around to different locations, or just changing their body type, or just changing where their body's positioned, or how it's positioned accordingly to get heat sources out or in. So here's this. I got this from here. So researchgate.net. So just here's a write-up on it. Many lizards behaviorally regulate body temperatures within a narrow range by shuttling or moving around between sun and shade or hot and cold microenvironments to alter heat flux. Yeah, by modifying posture to alter surface areas exposed to heat sources or sinks, and regulating activity time, so when they actually do stuff. And yeah, they can do this within very small range of temperatures, and often within a degree or two of their lethal critical temperatures, where it's either too hot or too cold, which is quite fascinating. Yeah, so then, yeah, so basically lizards can do this, and they're not necessarily, yeah, so you don't, it's a homeotherm, but it's not necessarily endothermic, so it's not generating heat on its own. It's just moving it's just moving itself and its body parts to get the proper temperature at all times, which is quite remarkable. Anyways, so an endotherm here, from Greek endon, which meaning within, and thermi, heat, is an organism that maintains its body at a metabolically favorable temperature, largely by the use of heat released by its internal bodily functions, instead of relying almost purely on ambient heat. Such internally generated heat is mainly an incidental product of the animal's routine metabolism, but under conditions of excessive cold or low activity, an endotherm might apply special mechanisms adapted specifically to heat production. Yeah, which is pretty interesting. So yes, the animals, yeah, so incidental product of the animal's routine metabolism. Because remember, the metabolism / cellular respiration is could be viewed as a redox reaction or a combustion. Yeah, it's essentially like a combustion reaction, but in slow motion. So you're producing heat, and you could also apply special mechanisms in usually in excess cold or low activity. They can do this, apply special mechanisms to generate heat. Examples include special function muscular exertion, such as shivering, so it moves super quickly like that, and uncoupled oxidative metabolism, such as within brown adipose tissue, that's body fat. Only birds and mammals are exempt or currently existing. Let's see this.
Extant
or extant universally endothermic groups of animals, so as opposed to extinct, so it's currently there. Universally endothermic group of animals. Certain lamnid sharks, lamnid sharks, tuna, and billfishes are also endothermic. In common parlance, yes, and this parlance just means way of speaking. So yes, basically in common parlance, endotherms are characterized as warm-blooded. The opposite of endothermy is ectothermy, although in general there is no absolute or clear separation between the nature of endotherms and ectotherms, yeah, which is an interesting statement. They're essentially because ectotherms or endotherms as well, they also go and try to gain heat from their environment and so on. So it could be a mixture and so on. So anyways, shivering, also called shuddering, is a bodily function in response to cold and extreme fear in warm-blooded animals. When the core body temperature drops, the shivering reflex is triggered to maintain homeostasis. Skeletal muscles begin to shake in small movements, creating warmth by expending energy. Yeah, now here let's look at this uncoupler or uncoupling agent. That's to do with this over here, this uncoupled oxidative metabolism, such as within brown adipose tissue or the body fat. So an uncoupler or uncoupling agent is a molecule that disrupts oxidative phosphorylation in prokaryotes and mitochondria, or photophosphorylation in chloroplasts and cyanobacteria by dissociating the reactions of ATP synthesis from the electron transport chain. Yeah, so interesting. So it dissociates the reactions of ATP synthesis from electron transport chain, and in animals, this would be the mitochondria there. And the result is that the cell or mitochondrion expends energy to generate a proton motive force, but the proton motive force is dissipated before the ATP synthase can recapture this energy and use it to make ATP. And uncouplers are capable of transporting protons through mitochondrial and lipid membranes. Yeah, so what happens is you dissociate these reactions, and then the cell or mitochondrion expends energy to generate a proton motive force, but the proton motive force is dissipated before the ATP synthase can recapture this energy to make ATP. Yeah, so it uses energy. Whenever you use energy, it would be usually a loss in terms of heat or releasing heat over there. Yeah, I'm just going to bold this here. So the mitochondrion expends energy. So something like that. So uncoupler over there, and this is within brown adipose tissue, so body fat. So essentially why it's the fats, the energy storage mechanism, and then when needs to be, you can burn that off as a special mechanism over here, special function, muscular setup there. Actually, that was muscular excursion or uncoupled oxidative metabolism, which is interesting. Anyways, so many terrestrial ectotherms are poikilothermic. So ectotherms that don't produce their own body heat or produce very little. However, some ectotherms remain in temperature constant environments to the point that they're actually able to maintain a constant internal temperature, i.e. are homeothermic. It is this distinction that makes the term poikilotherm more useful than the vernacular common / informal cold-blooded, which is sometimes used to refer to ectotherms more generally. Yeah, so ectotherms are called cold-blooded more generally, but this term is more useful as is a poikilotherm, just because this is for variation of the temperatures. Because some of the other ectotherms remain in temperature constant environments where they can eventually just maintain a constant internal temperature, so are homeothermic, and hence not the typical type of cold-blooded that is often thought of when using this term, which is used to refer ectotherms in general, but this is more this is a better term to use than cold-blooded when referring to non-homeothermic ectotherms. Anyways, continue further. So basal metabolic rate at BMR is the rate of energy expenditure per unit time by endothermic animals at rest. All right, so now that we have this over here, so remember this is at rate of energy expenditure per unit time by endothermic animals at rest. The key point is at rest. At rest, I should bold that. That's very interesting. So continue further here. This figure is bio.miami.edu. And just to illustrate, I went over all these endotherm, this poikilotherm, etc., just so we can see that their definitions are actually blends of it, and blends of they can be part of the other definitions and so on, and just a lot of terms that is not that clearly presented. But anyway, so we have this here. Here's an illustration of the table here. So endothermic could be here. You could have endothermic or ectothermic. So, and then you could also have homeothermic. So it maintains the same constant temperature. So mostly birds and mammals, although tuna and some other large fish can come close. So homeothermic over there. But endothermic could also be poikilothermic. Let's see the pronunciation of that again.
Poikilothermic.
Alright, so that was a bit off. Let's try this again.
Poikilothermic.
Yeah, I don't know why my computer blows up sometimes. Let's try this again.
Poikilotherm.
Yeah, poikilotherm. All right. So even if it's endothermic, you'd have a poikilotherm, so birds and mammals that allow their body temperature to vary during certain time periods, e.g. hibernation. Many insects and some other invertebrates do this too. Then you have ectothermic, so it doesn't produce much internal body heat. But you can still have a homeothermic, so maintains the same common temperature. Some tropical reptiles and possibly dinosaurs come close, and deep ocean and some deep lake animals. Yeah, where the temperatures are always the same. Poikilotherm or thermic, most fish and amphibians and reptiles, most invertebrates. They don't produce their own own internal energy source, and at the same time, as well as they also have very varying temperatures based on whatever the environment is. And that's a better term than cold-blooded. Yes. And then endothermic is the warm-blooded setups or terms that are commonly used. Anyways, let's just continue further. So here's another figure to illustrate this. This figure is from Quizlet.com. All right, so we have another diagram right here. So we have endothermy. If it's yes, it's an endotherm. So if it produces energy. And now you have thermoregulation. You could have no. It's a non-thermoregulating endotherms, tuna. Yeah, this tuna is non-thermoregulating. I just paused the video and did some research on this because that just gave me some brain fog there. So it's thermoregulation, no, but it's an endotherm. It can produce its own heat, but it doesn't regulate it to make sure it's always the same. So that's tuna. And you can read more on it from here. This is from ScienceDaily.com. So Pacific bluefin tuna are top predators renowned for their epic migrations across the Pacific Ocean. They're also unique amongst bony fish as they are warm-bodied, so they're endothermic, and are capable of elevating their body core temperature up to 20 degrees Celsius above that of the surrounding water. But they are also capable of diving down below 1,000 meters into much colder water, which affects the temperatures of their heart. And Dr. Holly Shields at the University of Faculty of Life Sciences says, when tunas dive down to cold depths, their body temperature stays warm, but their heart temperatures can fall by 15 degrees within minutes. So heart temperature can fall within minutes. So in other words, in this case, it's not regulating the heat there. The heart is chilled because it receives blood directly from the gills, which mirrors water temperature. This clearly imposes stress upon the heart, but it keeps beating despite the temperature change. In most other animals, the heart would stop. Yeah, so this is, I think that's probably why they added this non-thermal regulating endotherms, because it's an endothermic. The body is warm-bodied, and their body temperature stays warm even when it goes to very cold temperatures, but their heart gets super chilled, so it's so it can withstand super cold stuff without even caring about that big change in minutes. So you're changing in minutes, super cold, 15 degrees below and within minutes, and you're fine. So that is a unique animal there. So the fish there. So continue further. So thermoregulating endotherms, you want to maintain the same temperature. That's mammals and birds. I don't know why they're using red color here. And yeah, those are called homeotherms. And these would be basically poikilotherms over here, or a mixture over here and here. So anyways, so fish in general. So here this is thermoregulation. No, non-thermoregulating poikilotherms or ectotherms. So you have those all there. And now if it is thermoregulating, but it's not an endotherm, so it's no endothermy. That's no poikilotherms and ectotherms. And then you'll have yes here. So reptiles is a type where it does thermoregulate still. So thermoregulating poikilotherms or ectotherms are using behavioral thermoregulators. While this tuna here is a special one, non-thermoregulating. Even though it can produce its own heat, it can go and freeze up and not think twice. So yes, it is a super animal. Let's continue further. All right, so let's look at this homeostasis or homeostasis. Let's see the pronunciation.
Homeostasis.
Or yeah, homeostasis. I was calling it homeostasis. Homeostasis is the stability of an animal's internal environment, which is maintained by negative feedback loops. So let's look at a negative feedback loop. So negative feedback is necessary for maintaining homeostasis, such as keeping body temperature constant. So what you have is, here's a negative feedback over here. So you have a stimulus, sensor, control, effector, and it throws back to the stimulus and changes that up. Or it resenses the stimulus. So for example, here, body temperature regulation. So you have body temperature is 37 degrees. Nerve cells in skin and brain sense it, so they sense. And now you have temperature regulator center in the brain, the control, and then sweat glands throughout the body, so it sweats. And then what happens is, well, it checks the body temperature. Yeah, when it's too hot, so it's giving off all the heat, it's sweating it all out, and if the body temperature lowers, or it checks it again, and then it goes back and does the cycle, and then it will stop sweating when the temperature is lower. Very interesting. So MES note, negative feedback works against stimulus, while positive feedback reinforces stimulus. So here it would go and then would change this up by trying to lower this temperature there. Or in this case, yeah, it exceeds 37, so you want to lower that, etc. So it's a negative feedback. So here's the difference between, negative feedback works against stimulus, while positive feedback reinforces stimulus. And illustrate it is with this image here. Make this smaller. So this is from this website, scisnack.com. So you have negative feedback loop, number of prey, and then you'll have number of predators. So if the number of prey increases, and then you have increased number of predators, which decreases the number of prey. So the feedback is, as you increase the number of predators, I think that's how this is interpreted. So increase number of predators, you're going to decrease number of prey because then it's going to eat a whole bunch of those prey there. So now if you look at a positive feedback loop, is this one here. It's a pretty good example here. So if you have motivation, so if you have increase in success, you'll have increase in motivation. And if you keep getting more success, and you're going to keep being motivated. So you have a positive feedback loop. So it does not want to stop it, which is Very interesting. As opposed to this is negative feedback. The temperature is too high, you want to go and fix that up. If it's too low, you want to fix it up. So the going further, so the body size of terrestrial animals or land animals vary across different species, but their use of energy does not scale linearly according to their size. Mice, for example, are able to consume 3 times more food than rabbits in proportion to their weights, as a basal metabolic rate or per unit metabolic rate per unit weight in mice is greater than in rabbits. So then the mice are producing much more energy per their weight. Now, physical activity can also increase an animal's metabolic rate. When an animal runs, its metabolic rate increases linearly with speed. So that's its metabolic rate. The basal is when you're at rest. So that's why it's the base. So when an animal runs, its metabolic rate increases linearly with speed. Yeah, so it's when it's running, it's increasing linearly with speed. However, the relationship is non-linear in animals that swim or fly. When a fish swims faster, it encounters greater water resistance, and so its metabolic rate increases exponentially. Alternatively, the relationship of flight speeds and metabolic rates is U-shaped. In birds, at low flight speeds, a bird must maintain a high metabolic rates. That's a typo, but SIC, it should be maintain a high metabolic rate to maintain or to remain airborne. As it speeds up its flight, its metabolic rate decreases with the aid of air rapidly flows over its wings. However, as it increases in speed even further, its high metabolic rate rises again due to the increased effort associated with rapid flight speeds. And basal metabolic rates can be measured based on an animal's rate of heat production. Yes, which is very interesting. So how much heat it's producing, you can measure that there. So yeah, so notice the shapes of them. So here's the graph of the different shapes. So MES note. So figure, this is from MacmillanHigherEd.com. So cost of exercise. Rate of O2 consumption as a function of forward speed for A, people running, B, fish swimming, and C, birds flying. Yeah, so how much O2 is being consumed, how much oxygen or energy, etc. So you have humans right here. As you run faster, speed, this is miles, I think this is miles per minute. So you'll have, actually I think it's meters per minute, not miles per minute. That's absolutely ridiculous. So this is, I would assume meters per minute. Yeah, so assuming that, and I'm pretty sure it is, here I just added it over here, so 200 meters per minute, I just calculated out equals to 12 kilometers per hour, or 7.46 miles per hour, so yes, just to illustrate, yeah, so this is a decent speed right there. It's pretty much like a jog, so you're running, you can increase it, etc., and Usain Bolt would probably be around the 40 kilometers per hour. So about 4 times the speed, or 3.5 times the speed, or 4 times the speed of this just running. So right here we have humans running right here. Yeah, so the rate of O2 consumption increases linearly with speed. For fish, so the rate of O2 production, this is written as O2 consumed per unit time. Swimming speed, distance per unit time, so this is swimming speed just in general, and it exponentially increases over there. And that is because the water becomes more of a hindrance to the fish. Yeah, so over here, so when a fish swims faster, it encounters greater water resistance than going slowly. So its metabolic rates increases exponential. So it's going up like that. But with birds, it's a bit different. So here it is. What happens is the energy consumption. Initially, it's hard because it's flying slowly. So we could write that over here. The relationship of flight speeds and metabolic rates is U-shaped in birds. At low flight speeds, a bird must maintain a high metabolic rate to remain airborne. Yes, to remain airborne to prevent falling down. So it needs to do a high energy over here. And then as it speeds up its flight, its metabolic rate decreases with aid of air rapidly flowing over its wings. Yeah, so when it goes pretty fast, you'll have a lot of lift, allowing it to lift upwards. So as the wind is pushing on it, as it's going faster, there is a lift factor where the air is helping it rise upwards. So it doesn't use that much energy. But then if it wants to go even faster than the low energy input it's doing, it's going to have to input a whole lot of energy to speed up faster and faster. So there's going to be a comfort zone over here. and it's U-shaped. So then it's going to need a lot more energy, it's a lot of turbulence, and so on with the increased flight speed. Yeah, so it's going to need a whole lot of effort, increased effort associated with rapid flight speeds. And as well as to maintain control of that fast speed, it's going to need infinite focus as well, which is, again, a lot of energy being used.